All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Revent Hunt podcast. Actually, we have Kenny and myself on tonight. Kevin has some family commitments, and as always, we just want to roll with whoever's on here and whatever you're doing in life, Kenny, because we keep it real.
Absolutely.
I thought it'd be kind of neat to come back, and I know we talked crossbows with 10 Point and Barb last week. That was a phenomenal episode. Had a lot of fun talking with her about that. I know we're getting toward pre-rut here in Ohio now. I actually went out early. I think it's early this week. I saw some three little bucks starting to kind of just spar around a little bit, getting a little feisty with each other. They came out of the woods closer to dark, and it's kind of fun. And then I got on my Spy Point G36 Flex last night about 3 in the morning. I finally got my first big mature buck on camera of the year. He was facing forward and sideways, and he's got really long G2s, and his main beams wrapped clear around, almost touched a little cross on the end from the main beams. So it's kind of neat. I never actually hunted the buck with the main beams that close to touching, and he survived last year. I had him on camera late winter in the snow, so it's kind of cool to see the growth on him. No sheds or anything. I'm not sure when he's around. One of those things where he's nocturnal right now, but I feel like as we get closer and closer to Halloween, he'll hopefully start pushing that
Yeah.
daylight time frame. So
Yeah.
be kind of fun.
Yeah. I've got here, so our property that we live on is 22 and a half acres, and it's a great uh, transition property. I mean, they're going from through us to go from bedding to food and
Yep.
back and forth.
Same here.
And so it's a sweet little piece. But this year, I've got two mature bucks that have showed up. One I know is absolutely 4.5. The other one I can't determine whether it's 4.5 or 5.5. They're not giant, but they're good. 140s,
Yeah.
easy. And but it's the biggest deer I've had. Well, the biggest deer I've consistently had on this property. Last fall, what was it? The last weekend of rifle season in Missouri. It was like at 2 in the morning. I had a giant 8 pointer that was down in front of my house about 160 yards. That deer easily was a 168. Now he had some character on there, but
Right.
mainframe eight. But he was bases that were just giant.
That's
Brow
crazy.
tines that were probably 12 to 13 inches long is incredible.
That's a huge mainframe 8 pointer too, in that score.
Yeah,
That's they get to that level with an 8 pointer. You're like, that's unbelievable mass and size at that point.
yeah. He's the biggest bodied deer I've ever seen in this area. He's just huge.
Okay.
So it's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, this deer is starting to get. You can see last year a little bit too, like starting to develop a little non-typical character, and that's not something I see a whole lot in most of the deer I hunt. Mostly they're pretty typical deer, but it's kind of neat to see like last year's non-typical that we harvested, and this year this guy's running around and getting some non-typical characters. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, and I think it's just fun. Like the Spy Point cameras allow you to see what's out there, and it's like I said, like a kid at Christmas every morning and evening. I got set to
Absolutely.
transmit twice a day just to see what's out there. And you get neat pictures of. I got an eagle a couple weeks ago taking off, and some fox and coyote. So it's just a lot of fun to see what Spy Point's catching out there.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. First
Yeah,
thing I look at, so my butt gets out of bed. I mean,
I
I get
know.
say my morning prayer and then I look at my phone, man.
Yeah, you hear that
My
beep
order.
coming in. You got a notification. You're like, oh boy, what's going on? I thought
Cool.
we'd talk tonight, get back and talk about bows. I know there's like 1,000 opinions out there, obviously a million opinions, and there's sometimes people get real heated about this. And so I think I wanted to start by saying last week when I was discussing crossbows and 10 points and that sort of thing and their effectiveness, I was just discussing it, and we had some people. Everybody has a position, and some people get real heated about this, but my position
Absolutely.
is always going to be it's always going to be choose what your weapon you want to use for the legal situation you're hunting, the environment you're hunting, the style of hunting you want to do. At the end of the day, we're all out there enjoying the sport. So as long as people are using a weapon that's legal and what they choose to use and they're pursuing game animals, we're all going to win for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point because it doesn't matter what you use, whether it's a gun or a crossbow or a compound or a trad bow, it's not only using what you use, it's how you use it, right? You have to be ethical.
Right.
And I think that kind of leads right into crossbows because there's so many people have this concept that it's the closest thing to a rifle without being a rifle, right? And it's not the case.
It's not that
Uh,
easy.
and when we talked a little bit about this when we had Barb on from 10 Point, was there's the advertisement that shoots like a gun out to 100 yards. There's all of that. I mean, I can shoot 110, 120 yards with my compound. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
I should, but I
Right.
can,
Right.
right? And I'm the same way with my crossbow. Um, and I shoot both compound and crossbows. I became a 10 Point fan many years ago. Um, just by using them. I mean, they just last, right? And I've got a whole slew of grandkids, and it was an easy way to get them involved, and it'd be fun to start out with because when they're kids,
Yeah.
it's not fun. They're not going to do it, right?
Exactly.
And
It's too
it's a
hard.
great way to get kids involved because now they can go to bow season. They get a lot more time, just like everybody else, and it's cool, right? It's cool, and like I said when we talked to Barb, I've got a grandson that goes out. He cranks it up, shoots it, pulls the arrow, cranks it up, shoots it. I mean, he can do it all day long and has a blast. I don't have to. I stand there and watch. I mean, obviously, but I don't
Yeah.
have to help him, and it's cool to do it. And it's a great way for kids to learn how to shoot a scope through a scope. It's a great way for kids to learn how to handle a rifle stock. It's just a great tool to start them out with. So I love
Yeah.
my 10. I love crossbows. I think they're great, and I think it's great that most states started allowing it.
Yeah, 10 Point, they make a great product, of course, out of Mogador, Ohio here. And I love the finish on it, the feel of the fit. It's like a grippy, like there's a
Yeah,
texture to the stock. I really like how grippy it is in the 10 Points
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Those higher end models that they have, that have that texture, that soft feel stock to them
Soft feel,
for
yes.
coating.
Yeah.
It is cool,
Now
and you
10
can get
Point
it in green or that camo pattern, and
yeah.
it's the same feel. It's really cool.
Now 10 Point also they also produce Wicked Ridge crossbows, right? Like they make
Yes.
a variety of levels of crossbow for people getting introductory level all the way up to like a higher end level.
Yeah, and if you still find Hortons anywhere, 10 Point owns that as well. So,
Okay.
but they had Horton, but Wicked Ridge is I hate to use their lower grade line because they're just great
Yeah.
crossbows,
Yeah.
but they're more of your from the price
Economical,
range. They got the price point that most people can afford in that Wicked Ridge line.
right?
Uh, and then, not that 10 Point doesn't have some that's in a good price point. But I think if you look at the 10 Point line, that the cheaper ones are probably still on that 700 mark or whatever, going up to almost 5 grand, depending what you want to spend and put on it. But Wicked Ridge goes, you can get as low as a few $100s up to about 1100. So
I think those are great options too for people that, as you said, want to get kids into it and they don't want to, maybe they don't want to spend the, 2 grand or 3 grand or 4 grand plus on a crossbow and that high end model that kids are using, or maybe they're getting into it themselves. And, I think that's awesome. You look at like across the whole crossbow lineup and different manufacturers, like, Bear makes a great crossbow now. Wicked Ridge makes a great crossbow. And you see like, I would say, in my opinion, personally, shooting both of them, all of them, I would say like to me, like the 10 Point and the Raven are probably the top two high end crossbow models on the planet that people shoot. There's a lot of cool technology and engineering in the bolts, like in the launch systems and the rail guides and the ball bearings and the brushes that help center the crossbow bolt. But I think what I've been impressed with is when you look at the real high end models that are shooting, 500 plus feet per second, all these companies have really dialed in the accuracy to be literally unbelievable, which is just good for the hunter. Like we all know, like you said before, if you're shooting out to 100 yards, like that hunter has to make a decision at that point. What is your effective range? What rod are you using? What's the wind? What's the animal environment? I'm not judging any of that because it's very situational. Like you said, Kenny, it's got to be situational, and you got to use your efficacy as a hunter to make that choice. But just like a trad bow, we had some people post pictures online. A young lady took her first doe with a trad bow, and that's pretty incredible. I think it was maybe 25 yards or 30 when she took it. But your trad bow hunter, would you say generally stays 30 yards and under? under in that respect,
Absolutely.
because that's hard. You got to respect that because you're shooting every day, you're shooting daily, get that muscle memory in tune. And I fully respect the trad hunter. I know Wolfpaw produces some trad bows, and I work with him quite a bit. And you look at Bear Archery that produces trad bows. You got to respect those people that stay in that niche because they are highly effective at 30 yards generally and under. But then you do have, sometimes you're going to have a speed issue with a trad bow. Like your arrow is
Mhm.
not moving super fast. So if that deer reacts at 30 yards, I've had them jump the string of the compound pushing 280 feet per second at 30 yards, and they're dropping, 8 inches or so. It can happen. It just depends on the person and the animal and the environment.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. And it's a great point. People don't understand the speed on those trad bows. It's not fast. But and you talked about a deer jumping the string on a compound at 30 yards. My compound, I mean, I shoot a Hoyt, and I'm pushing real close to 300 feet
Right.
per
About
second. But at
300. Yeah.
30, and I'm shooting a heavy arrow, all of that. But at 30 yards, I've had them duck it. I've
Sure.
had ones that I've even aimed low, and I ended up, I mean, aim real low at 30
Yeah.
yards and spined them because they duck so much.
Right.
And that's fast. That's a lot of speed in a
It
short,
is.
and they're still able to react to it. And people don't
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah,
And
but
then
if
you,
it's well, you got like they may have like 25 hundredths of a second to react that reaction time. Say what you can't do the physics of that. Those animals have a quicker reaction time that arrow's getting there. You're right, and there's nothing you can do as a hunter. Like it just sometimes happens, unfortunately.
and I'm a big believer that deer make noise. I mean, I think you can get in and out of stands making noise and all of that. So it's the further away the deer is, the less the noise of the bow,
I agree.
I think, affects them.
Yeah,
But you stand downrange in a safe area, but stand downrange or put a microphone or a camera down above a camera or above a target and listen to an arrow fly. They're not quiet.
no,
They're making noise. And if a deer at 40 yards, 40 or 45 yards, I'm convinced you'll never convince me any differently. They're not reacting to the bow. I think they're reacting to the sound of that arrow because they're not quiet. None of them are quiet. I mean, it's a true whistle or a and and I think that's at those distances. Once you get further out, that's what they're reacting to.
yeah,
And you talk about crossbows. I've shot for many years on my compound, and I'll take a deer at 40 yards every day with my compound.
mhm.
You put it at 45, I won't shoot 45.
That
I
window
just
gets real
think that
big. Yeah,
yeah. And but I've been tempted, and but I make that conscious effort. I
yeah,
just I'm if I'm not going to do it right. But you give me my crossbow in my hand, I'll
mhm.
go to 55. I'll go to 55 all day long. But I'm shooting an extra 100 plus feet per second.
Yeah,
It's flying a little flatter, and I
getting
know
there
how
faster.
accurate it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm very confident at that. But 55 is my limit. I'm not going to push 60, even though I probably could.
right, right, right.
And
And
I probably could with confidence. I'm just not going to do it because it's still an arrow.
yeah, but you've set your limit, and I think that's really important. Like we had the incidents last year, that double drop time buck. Like we had one shot it was 70 yards, broadside, dead air, no noise, no movement. He's looking, and like he was about 10 yards from CRP, and it was going to be no shot. And the only reason why I was comfortable with that shot that she took was the physics of knowing that broad is going to blow through both shoulders, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what it did. It had the energy at 500 plus feet per second. Some people are going to make some hard judgments there. I completely respect and understand that. However, when you put yourself in that situation as a human, you have to say, like you said, Kenny, is this the right moment for a shot? Is this ethical in this moment? And I've been in situations where one big deer I had came in pushing a doe one year, probably 10 years ago, and was supposed to walk. The doe went right under me. Well, this big deer hung back. There's a smaller buck behind him pushing the doe with him, and he decided to swing out about 40. And I had one bee in a tree with it was my a bit of Matthews Creed XS that year. Okay, I had in my hand, and it was probably pushing with my arrow weight 255, 260 feet per second ish. My string was a little older, and so this V in the tree, he's going to go across the fence line. I knew I had one opening if he stopped with this V in the tree. Well, I met and I got him to stop broadside, wasn't moving at all, settled my pin exactly as you needed to do, right? And right, I mean, literally, the timing couldn't have been worse for me, and it wasn't great for him too. So I'm sure the deer died. But literally, everything was settled, everything was perfect, no wind. As I let go of the release, he started stepping forward. Like didn't hear it, didn't just decide to start cruising forward, and he stepped enough that it went right through. I'm sure the liver, clear through the deer, saw it up to the flushing, hanging out their side. It was a hard hit, bleeding there, and you let it go. Tried to track it, did the best we could. The blood got less and less and less, and then just poof. You're trying to do circles and look for the deer, and that's where I guess maybe like new drone technology wasn't there 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
it would have been cool to be able to have a drone and maybe locate that animal. But you do the best you can and work really hard to look at the animal, and I'm assuming that deer probably died. There's a 90% chance that that deer died. But there wasn't anything I did really technically quote unquote wrong. It was just a timing issue that we as hunters, and again, I'm gonna throw it out there, people might get upset that we've all probably done it. And if it hasn't ever happened to you and you're a new bow hunter, it probably unfortunately will. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And man, we hate it, right? Like I hate every single situation where I don't put an arrow right through both lungs and take that deer out as quick as I can. But it has happened to me.
yeah. I've had, you talk about going to happen to you. 3 years in a row, two different stands, but 3 years in a row, I had deer come on head on me. My camera's showing them going acrossways, but this first year, deer came. It was a nice buck. I mean, I've got him on the wall. He came right at me. It was like 12 yards, and he just happened to look up at me. I've shot forever. I trust my shot. I put that arrow right down through beside his neck, right down into his chest, right through his heart. The thing ran 10 yards, butt over tea kettle, and he died.
Wow.
Next year, same stand, just a different direction, came in from my left, same thing, put it down the other side of the neck, went 10, 12 yards, died. Third year, I'm in a different stand, and this would have been the biggest buck I ever shot with a bow. Came in, this deer was probably right at it 10 to 11 yards, and same setup. I drew back, crazy confident, done it 2 years in a row, right?
Right.
Crazy confident, never found the deer.
Yeah.
I hit him, blood. I had blood trail.
I get that.
I mean, probably 6, 7 hours. And now I have passed on, I would say probably 2 160s, same shot, that close, just because of that one deer.
Yep.
I won't do it again.
Yeah, you think about it. I know. I had a guy like one thing I don't take, and this is something I just don't do. Okay, I don't take frontal shots. The margin of error for me, it's so small. Again, a lot of people do it. I had a guy take one last year, and I think he clipped one lung of a deer, and then the deer didn't die. Went out to like I think a 90 yards or 100 yards. He was really excited. The club was fly so well actually because he had to put a second bolt for a crossbow. He reloaded, and he said, "Josh, that broadhead flew like a laser." And I said, "Well, that's what it's designed to do." But he had to put a second bolt through the deer at like 90 yards and was able to do it, recover the deer. So I said, "Well, thank you. I'm glad we were able to help you out with the harvest." But like, you don't want to have to do that. And I think anybody out there, like, it's an ego thing a little bit for me. Like I hate telling people like I've lost a few deer because things happen, right? And the reaction or the shot angle isn't perfect. And now I'm just I'm a broadside, in the crease, or with our broadhead, I'm okay with a crossbow through the shoulder because it'll survive blow right through. But I really want that nice quarter in the way, step forward with the front foot open, double lung.
Yep.
That's the most effective thing you can possibly do with any broadhead, any arrow, any bolt you're using. It's going to take that deer out. Like you could use a field point, which obviously you wouldn't want to do, but like you puncture both lungs through that area, and the deer is not going probably more than 50.
Well, that was many moons ago when I done it, but I can just tell you I've not done it since, and I won't. I mean, it's lessons learned, right?
It's hard, yeah. You learn
it. It's those 30-yard shots, and what people don't understand is you can take a 30-yard shot all day long, standing on both feet on the ground, flat all day long.
Yeah.
Put that 30 yards in a tree, and it's a complete different angle on that deer.
Everything's different.
Right? And you may still shoot at 30 yards, but it's a different angle. You can't shoot in that same spot. And when you get these young hunters out there, you have to show them the differences, right?
Yeah.
So it's cool.
And sometimes you hit the nail on the head too with that though. Like I think it just comes through sometimes experience of getting out the woods and actually really hunting these environments, and you get burned a few times by stuff, and then you learn. It's like doing anything else, like working on an engine or building a deck, whatever you're doing. Like you have the tricks of the trade to learn, just like hunting. You watch an animal, and over time, like you said, you start to develop the normal quote unquote. Nothing's normal with an animal. The normal reaction is this of a deer. Now they don't always do that, but normally
Nope.
they're gonna turn just like this, and then you can put it right through them, and you can teach a kid that, but it doesn't mean they're gonna do it every time either.
Well, you hear the stories all the time. I know this is about bows, but you hear the story all the time about a deer walking in front of somebody 80 yards and they're with a rifle and they miss and they load another round and they shoot again and the deer doesn't move. I've had that happen with my bow, 35 yards. And I expected them to duck. I aimed a little too low, went right underneath them, missed them, put another arrow in, and they just don't move. And sometimes they just, that first one, they just go crazy and they explode out of there. And you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Situational.
Yeah. Here's a great story. I have a fellow colleague, former colleague in teaching. And so he moved from Northwest Ohio down here. And of course, got into deer hunting and everything. And so we went out and he was doing his first, I think it was one of his first years hunting. It was Halloween, actually, Halloween night. And we're getting a call. Well, he calls me, he goes, Josh, I think I got a really big one, and he's like, I'm like, well, where's that? He's like, I think it went down. But we went out and he run it in. And I'll make the long story shorter. So this deer comes all the way down out of the woods in this field. He's in a blind, I think. He grunts it in to maybe, I'm going to guess, I think it's like 25 yards or so, 30. Well, he lets go the arrow, and I think he hits it. He thinks he hits it in the back hand. And he's like, I think I watched it die. And I'm like, man, that just doesn't seem right. Back ham, and you're going down that quick, But I have seen instances where, you clip that femoral artery with the broadhead just right, and he did. And if he hits that deer anywhere else in that back ham, it's living for whatever how many years it's going to live. But he hit the femoral, and again, I think we have to respect this too, as hunters on here listening or anyone out there. There are 15,000 variables as a hunter you're trying to control to take this animal as efficiently as possible. And I guess what I'm saying is with all these bows, the trad bow, respect those hunters. I respect the crap out of them because they work so hard to get the trad bow sighted in and to learn instinctive shooting. And that is incredible for me, out of 30 yards is pretty incredible range. Now with a compound, and myself, like I'm a compound hunter most of the time. So, I'm going to say I like the Whisker Biscuit release just because I like that full capture for me personally. And people say, well, it slows it down. And there's a lot of studies out there that show it doesn't do a whole lot of stuff to the feet per second of speed. But that's beside the point for me because I get so much more effectiveness out of that full capture. When I'm in a tree stand or a blind, I can move the bow around. There's no slap and there's no noise. And there's a tremendous number of great drop weights out there. I'm not saying Whisker Biscuit is or a full capture rest like that biscuit is the rest that is the best. I'm saying for me, it's the best. So that's just something I use, or the sight I use has the pins the size I want that are they're lighted but not too bright. And my eyes are getting a little bit older, and I think I told that just before. I can notice that the dim light scenarios now, as my dad told me what happened, is starting to happen. When in morning and night, the dim light is starting to get to my eyes a little bit with the pins. And so I realize at some point, you're going to have to adapt to that with a compound and keep shooting that longer. And then eventually, I'll admit it right now, I'm going to do what my dad did, which is you got to move to the crossbow sometime to keep hunting because you can't draw that draw weight back forever. Your eyes won't hold up forever. And as we all get older, I'm 43 right now. Those young bucks are 20, 25, pulling 90-pound bows back and sending it 200 yards, whatever. That's awesome. But you're going to have to change and adapt to your age and what you're able to do to keep hunting. And that's what it's all about, is I think getting in the woods and keeping hunting.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I agree. You picked on a lot of things there. And I think that what people need to understand, it doesn't matter what kind of tool you put in your hand. I look at the bows on the market, and I don't care if they're traditional, I don't care if they're compound. They're like trucks nowadays, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter what you buy; they're pretty much good trucks.
Pretty good, right? High quality, yeah.
Right. Yep. And so, what you need to do is go. And I tell everybody, when you walk into a bow shop, if they're a Matthews and an Obsession dealer, that's what they're going to try to sell you, right? And they're going to tell you there's nothing better on the market because that's what they're trying to sell you,
Right.
right? They've got money in them bows that they have to get out of their store so they can get more bows in the store. So they're going to say, go to every bow shop you can, shoot every bow you can, put it in your hand because they all feel different, they all shoot different, and I promise one's going to fit you better than the other.
For sure.
And and I've shot everything from Matthews to Browning, Darton, I mean, just everything. And once I started shooting the Hoyt carbon bows, they're the best bows for me. I mean, they just shoot more comfortable for me than anything I put in my hand. I got rid of a Hoyt carbon bow and bought a Bowtech Guardian. Loved it, right? Loved that Guardian. It was heavy for me. I'm not a heavy bow, but some people love heavy bows.
Right.
Not me. But that bow, I had the limbs on it. I was playing varsity football when you were born, so I'll just put that out there. And so I'm a little bit older than you, but when I bought that Guardian, I thought, man, this is the coolest bow. I had it set. I've been shooting 60 pounds just because I've not been able to draw 70 pounds for a while. That Guardian at 72 pounds, it drew like my 60-pound bows. So from that perspective, it was awesome. I shot it. After a while, I just went back to that carbon. That Hoyt carbon is just the right fit for me. You go through and you feel those bows and you shoot them. It's the whole cycle that you've got to understand. Rest is a good point. What's the rest you like? I'm a Hamskea user. I love Hamskea. I used Whisker Biscuit forever. I just love my Hamskea. It's quiet. It works. It's always out of the way. It's reliable, and it takes a beating, and I don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
And your sights is another one. Peeps. Everybody has different.
Peeps. Totally different.
The Peeps are incredible. I mean, you can get so many different sizes. You can get, the lenses in them now. You need to go shoot. You need to try everything out and find out what's best for you. Releases is another thing.
Releases. Yeah, we had that whole episode on that.
Yeah, Robin did at Hot Shot. I'm a big fan. I mean, I've been a wrist guy forever. Shot Scott, shot True Fire, True Ball. I mean, you named them. I've shot them, and some of the others. And I'm shooting the Three Finger Ember now from Hot Shot, and it is an incredible release. Go try them because it's
for sure.
It's just what you have to do.
Yeah, I think this whole episode is great because we're talking about the whole gamut of topics, and I think you bring in bows and technology and engineering into bows. I agree with you. They're like trucks now. Almost every truck is going to last probably 100K, no problem. It depends on the flavor you like. You know what I'm saying? You want super cab, you want more bedroom, but what do you want? And I think with bows and equipment out there, I think it's so pertinent that hunters get this information out to everybody because there's just there's so many people that they'll down a crossbow or they'll down some brand of compound bow. It's like, well, maybe you haven't even shot that kind of bow. Maybe you don't realize how cool it actually is to get out there and with somebody that has one and try it once. So I think my suggestion would be to keep your mind open, people out there and try these different bows out. Try a trad bow. I know that I'm learning that. I don't feel comfortable taking an animal with one yet. Like I said, bow fishing didn't work out so well, and I tried that. But I mean, it's a new thing. So when you learn a new thing, you got to put some time into it before you decide to get in the woods with one of those things, and then you decide, when are you ready for it. But like you said, with all the equipment, your quiver. I happen to. I don't think I'll probably ever get away from right now the Trophy Ridge Hexlite lighted quiver they make out there. I absolutely love it. It's a full capture. There's lights outside, inside. And I don't ever, I love it because I don't have to ever take like a headlamp out when I go hunting anymore. I'm walking back and pop that hood light on that's out external on my quiver, and I've got a light to get back to the truck, and I'm not like searching around my bag for my flashlight.
Yeah.
So I think you just you'll learn, like you said, you learn those things over time. You find some things that really fit you, and then eventually old dogs learn new tricks. Like you find some different flavors you like, or something, a new piece of equipment you've never seen before that is a good addition to what you're using, and then you change things out. So I found that even with with crossbows, I get into the debate where one crossbow is better than the other, or this brand or that brand, and I find that to me, all of them are like really crazily highly effective in today's world. The engineering is unbelievable on both compound and crossbows, and even like trad bows. With the synthetic composite carbon fiber limbs that are out now, and all these high end technologies. And then, even that's another point too. You talk about trad bow being like the most basic traditional way of hunting, which I guess is not a spear and persistence hunting, but it's still a step up from that. But even trad bows have really highly engineered material now in today's world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot that goes into them. And I would never, I would tell anybody if they want to get into archery hunting, start with compound over trad because
Yeah,
trad's difficult. It's
yeah,
hard to
yeah,
learn,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I would agree
And
with that 100%. I would agree with you.
so,
At least it gives you something to aim with. You have something to
right.
aim. You have the pins. You have a peep. Like you have an ability to aim. The instinctive aiming takes a ton of skill to master. So again, I respect the people that do that because that is
Absolutely.
an immense amount of skill to feel comfortable stepping out in the woods and taking manual with a trad bow. That's something that I don't feel
Absolutely.
comfortable doing.
Absolutely. I agree completely.
And then,
Completely.
well, then you look at like moving into arrows. Not to get that not into that topic today, but you got like tons of different arrow companies, tons of different bolt companies. Every crossbow it seems like now, like I know specifically, the one I generally shoot is a Raven R500, and they make these specific R500 bolts, which have I think a heavier wall for the energy put into that bolt, so it doesn't snap or break. But there's a lot of lighted nocks that are different. I think 10 Point has the Alpha Nock system. Am I correct in that?
Yep.
For lighted
Yeah.
nocks and their bolts.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
there's so much engineering going into all this that's happening. I think the end result is I just have so much respect for the different companies that are out there, the limits that the engineers are pushing. And you look at like crossbows. We talked to Barb. When I'm going to hit the 600 feet per second mark with a crossbow coming up. I'm sure 550 is next. I'm sure that's going to happen. And then you
Oh
look at
yeah.
like a compound bow. Compound bows generally with a normally weighted arrow. Compounds are what pushing 300 or a little bit over.
But
315.
PSE came out, what was it, 350 or 360 a year or two
Yeah,
ago. And that's
yeah,
incredible from a
fast,
compound,
super fast from a compound bow.
super fast.
And then you
So,
got your guys that talk long axle to axle and short axle to axle. Like for me,
yep.
I like a really short, like a Creed XS axle to axle because I love to be able to maneuver that around in a blind or in a tree stand. I don't want to really long. I know to me the really long axle to axle is a little more stable to shoot because the mass is a little bit further from the center point, but for actual real hunting, then you kind of, for me, it's personal. I like the shorter axle. So it just
That's
depends
me.
on so many things.
I like the shorter axle as well, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, and again, it comes to feel,
Right.
right? I mean, I know guys that get into those tree stands that have those, 34-inch axle to axle bows. And
Real
I'm like,
long bows.
man, that's like, yeah, you're carrying a longbow. In
Yeah.
my mind, you're carrying a longbow into the tree.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine hunting with that, but that's what they're comfortable with.
Yeah. I remember one year I bought I think it was a PSE Omen, if I remember right. And it was like a blazing fast bow for that year when I wanted the fast one. So I went and tried one out and I bought it. And it was like the cam was so aggressive on that bow. You had it at full draw. And it felt like you were holding back a rocket ship with nitroglycerin about. So basically, like if you touch it at all, it's like just rolling over and going. And I remember shooting that, and I'm like, holy cow! So I think your cam choice makes so much of a difference as well. And so I think
Yep.
you and I probably share that tonight in that respect of, hey, we're all out there in the field doing this. There's a ton of different weapons to do it with. I am not going to be one to sit here and judge how you're hunting. If you're doing it legally with a legal weapon, I could care less how you take that deer. I'm going to think it's super cool. You know what I'm saying? Like if
Absolutely.
you harvest an awesome buck or a doe with your kid, and if it's a memory of a lifetime, if it's I call it an adventure, right? If your hunt is an adventure for you and your family and the people around you, and you're using the weapon of your choice to do that, and you're excited about it, that's what's cool to me. And so I'm not gonna, I'm not pushing
Absolutely.
crossbows, I'm not pushing compounds or trad bows. I'm pushing what you want to push as a hunter to have some fun.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree. We were just talking about what a trophy is to somebody, whether it's that doe or
Yeah.
that'd be a good episode. What are trophies?
That's a
Just
great idea. I
yeah,
think we should have that coming up next. Like talk about, we talked about, we had the crossbow company on. I think this episode was good to talk about, like some, and again, not to get too far into trolling, but like it would be awesome if people out there maybe could like just work together more and troll less and have more fun and just know, hey, guess what? We actually are all on the same team. That same team is the people that want to show the positivity, I should say, of hunting in the world and get kids into it and keep older people into it, and maybe like not show our dissension so much because it does split us apart quite a bit. Like I think some guys will, and sometimes it's good rats too. Like sometimes you're out with the guys, or your girlfriend's giving you crap or whatever's going on. Your wife's giving you something, like I'll bet you shot that with a crossbow. So I love the razzing, the ribbing, but then I think there's a way to do it respectfully. And then sometimes I see on the internet, sometimes it goes too far, and then people just get so inflamed by it and enraged. It's like, wait a minute, you forget we are on the same team.
Yeah. Yeah. Deer aging, everything else. You should have let that deer go another 2 years. You should.
Yeah.
I don't ever shoot little bucks. Well, you know what? You shot one at one point. I guarantee.
We all have done that.
Yeah.
Yep, we all have done that. And we've all taken. I mean, we talked about before. We have a little bit of time coming up here, but like I think you and I agree, Kenny, because we're real. We have taken wrong shots on deer and animals. We have made choices in the shot placement we didn't want to make, or something inadvertent happened with windage or reaction, and that's a thing because you just talked about the story you had with that big buck you lost. That's what sticks with you is that second you try to make a choice, and you always try to make a good one, but we all screw up, and those are things that we should take back, but also things you can teach other people and learn from.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Kenny. Appreciate having you on tonight and talking about
Thank
this. I
you.
know we could probably go for hours and different stories and just different bow setups, but at the end of the day, I think I want to reach out there to people and just try to connect. That bridge of even sometimes, in the time we have left here, hunter to anti-hunter. Like let's talk about that, right? Like how can we sell hunting as respectful, ethical, and effective to the people out there that are anti to say, hey, well, wait a minute, okay, you don't like this, but look at what it does. You don't like this, but look at how efficient it is at harvesting this meat that feeds our family. So if we can do that more, and I'm not saying try to convert people per se. What I'm trying to
Absolutely.
say is like be the representative of the hunting community that we are to tell people and show them what are the benefits of being a hunter.
Take an attitude of evangelizing that to them versus arguing.
Right.
Goes a long ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
When you argue, they're just going to be defensive and they're going to stand their ground. So
yeah, couldn't agree more. All right. Well, thanks, Kenny, for coming on, and maybe we'll do the What's a Trophy episode coming up here.
Cool deal.
All right. Take care, everybody.
You too.